my name is Monica. Some of you know me, some don't. I'm part of ISCA team, focusing the last few years on developing online courses. And I would say probably half of my time in ISCA has been connected to the integration of refugees through sport, through different projects. And yeah, I'm working together with ISCA team and IRTS partners to somehow make this webinar happen. That's about me. I'm not going to continue more. I'm going to give floor. Sorry, there's the agenda. So we're going to have a quick introduction from Sashka, who's going to tell us more about IRTS Platform, especially for those that are not maybe part of it yet. And then we have 5 very powerful women that are doing things, doing sports activities in different ways in their clubs or organizations. So we're going to have Iida from Finland, Tilda from Sweden, Daniela from Italy, Marte from Norway, and at the end, Ayisat from Finland as well. I think we should just go in. So I would like to ask Sashka to tell us a little bit more about IRTS Platform.
Thank you very much, Monica. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. This is, what is this webinar now in the last year, the 7th or 8th, I think, with a specific topic. But a little bit of background. We are facing the highest level of forced displacement in the world and the highest number of people today that had to flee their homes. And the larger number of refugees and asylum seekers face also exclusion, and there is also a big risk for their mental and physical health. And we know that sport and physical activity, we know that what we are doing is a powerful tool for inclusion, relief, health promotion, and socialization and human connection. And having that in mind, we created the IRTS platform. IRTS means Integration of Refugees Through Sport. And we created a platform. That is a 3 years project that is supported by the European Commission. And the platform includes a network of people like you, organizations you are coming from. But this network includes more than 100 active partners and stakeholders, organizations, humanitarian sport organizations that are working in the field of IRTS, and more than 32 organizations that are not officially partnering, but they are engaged in our activities across Europe. And you are among of them. And we are coming together as we do today to learn from each other, to exchange knowledge, experience the physical and online meetings. That means the platform gives us this opportunity, but at the same time, the platform also means the IT tool that we are developing or we already developed that offers this kind of platform online meetings, but also online learning courses, and a collection of good examples, many inspirational stories, tips and tricks, and many other useful resources. Most of the activities or most of the materials are available, or all materials are available in English, but some are already also translated to different languages, thanks to also to active members. And at the moment, we are working also on a new RTS course. I always say RTS course, RTS because it's shorter, and it is about how to advocate for integration of refugees through sport. And this is in the process right now. We have also a big group of 48 mentees and mentors that are working together and following the IRTS mentoring program. And last year, we had an honor to award the best or good examples and ambassadors of IRTS activities in Europe. And this year we are facing a special and very hard situation in Ukraine. And IRTS network partners, leaders, trainers and you being part of the network reacted very fast to the situation by organizing the partners meeting, by collecting good examples. Some of you also organizing the donation and other activities. And thank you very much for that. And thank you also for sharing everything with us. We and we know that there is still much more to do. That's why we are also bringing again partners, IRTS stakeholders and partners together on 7th of April next week on Thursday at 1 o'clock Central European Summertime. And you are also more than welcome to join. In case you are not in the list of receivers of this communication and emails, I would like to ask you to leave your email address and name of your organization in the chat box so that we can also include you into the list. But today we are here on a specific topic and very important topic, and that is sustainable funding for IRTS activities. And thank you very much. Thank you, speakers and presenters, ladies who joined today with your knowledge and experience and willingness to share that. And thanks to all of you that join and are also willing to learn from good examples. Thank you very much. So Monica, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Sashka. Maybe just a note. So we have a mailing list from the Zoom registration, and if everyone is fine with that, we can forward the invitation for the next meeting, for the meeting next week to everyone, if people have a feeling and enthusiasm to join with it. Yes, thank you so much, Sashka. And let's go now to Iida from Finland, from Monalliku, who's going to share with us about Fit for Life and the funding and sharing a bit of the funding solutions, challenges, how they manage. So, Iida?
Thank you. I think you will, yes, thank you, share the presentation. I'm actually the coordinator for Fit for Life, but I'm here to talk about our swim project called Swim Power and how we do it and how we fund it. So we have a project, Swim Power, and it's to teach the women swimming and give them opportunities. So the history why we started this project, it started 5 years ago, and there was a pressure from our existing clients, mainly from this Fit for Life project, that they really wanted to learn how to swim and swim more. And we really understood and discovered that there are no existing places for these women to go and swim, because we only have these public swimming halls and pools, and they might not feel safe or welcomed there. So we started this project first with 2 groups in Helsinki, capital of Finland. And instantly it grew. It's very, very popular, and the need has just gone like bigger and bigger. Thank you. Next. So what we're doing now at the moment, we have these swimming lessons where we teach them to swim, basic swimming skills. We have 4 groups, 2 for basic skills and 2 for advanced skills. And the ladies meet once a week, and we have rented a private swimming pool for them to go. We have 2 seasons, and the seasons last 6 months. We had our first season now, which ended, I think, last week. And there was 45 participants all in all in these groups. We also have new thing, water aerobic classes, and this is aimed for women who already know how to swim. So it's this exercise in the pool. 3 groups for them, basics, intense, and then we have this free swimming time. So we don't teach them to swim, but they have time to swim by themselves in the pool. They also meet once a week in Helsinki, and also we rent private pool from them. And for this, we have 3 seasons. And now when Ramadan is starting, we are trying to advertise a new intensive class so they can come like to get in shape for summer, like these things. And next. Yes, thank you. In 2021, we had 74 women in these swimming lessons and water aerobic classes. And more than 70% of the participants moved to the next level. So the aim is really in these swimming lessons to move them from their skills, like from the basics to the advanced. And from there, we hope that they move to this free swimming class time. So really, we want them to learn and move forward. We have a new season starting in May for the swimming lessons. And in the queue, we still have 37 people. So it's a huge, huge need. And we have done no marketing for the swimming lessons, swimming classes. So only the community by themselves speak, and with the friends and families, we get the women. We made a survey last year for the participants, why they want to practice swimming. They want to improve their health, and they want to be able to join. And also they have families, so if they go to the beaches or pools, they want to have the skill. They want to know the skill for themselves and also for their children. There's so many health benefits from swimming. It relieves stress. And they also answered commonly that we asked, what happens if we stop organizing swimming groups? And they said, I will not have the possibility to do any sports, because at least at the moment in Helsinki or in Finland, not many public swimming halls or pools organize women only hours or classes. So they would not have any possibilities for these kind of classes. Little bit more of the benefits of aquatic exercises. We know there's so much. Physically, it's efficient, it's diverse. You can really make the intensity low or high. It improves your function, and it's good with people who have some problems, for example, in the joints. We know water is very, very good for the joints, for the bones. It's comfortable to move in. And special people who have, for example, asthma or osteoporosis, mental disorders, heart conditions, something like that. Water as an exercise form, it's safe, it's kind of gentle for you, so it's a good place to start. And we know that if you exercise regularly, it also decreases risks for different sicknesses. And this has so much benefits on your social and psychological well-being as well, because you move in a group, you might make new friends, and it's a safe environment. More about the mental perspective. As I said, it relieves stress, anxiety. It can help with your sleeping problems. It's a moment for yourself, which is nice to get out of the house. If you have a large family you have to take care of, it's nice to just do something for your own good. And many of our women, they have fears of water because they don't know how to swim, so they're very afraid. So overcoming those fears and learning new skills, discovering new abilities, it's very, very important for our women. And a lot of social good benefits from these swimming classes. We try to mix cultures. So there's women from multiple cultural backgrounds. The women get to work as a team. They all have the same goal. They all want to learn how to swim, and they all support each other. Many have made new friends. Many have got to know new people. And also many share the same fears, same thoughts about swimming or going underwater. So having others who feel the same way or might have same fears around you, it kind of makes it even more nice feeling of belonging. Challenges, of course, we have faced. Most of the customers are not familiar with swimming pools, They have not seen them, they have not been in them, they don't know kind of the cultural rules we have in the public places. They have none or zero swimming skills, never have been in the water like this. They have a lot of fear. Many have even trauma of being in the water. We have language barriers. We have volunteers who might speak the same language, but they are volunteers. So sometimes we might not have the same language with the instructor and the participants. And also they might not have a lot of background with physical activity all in all. So that all in all physical condition might be quite low. And of course, cultural differences. So why they usually don't go to the public swimming halls is because in Finland, we mix the genders and they are not comfortable with that. And we cannot have any male volunteers or instructors doing these classes. Challenges from the society. These big pools, they're not good for teaching. We are trying to have pools where they can touch the bottom. And they are so overbooked. They are so popular in Finland, so it's hard to find a place. And also public swimming halls do not like to give classes or hours just for women only classes. And very few places offer women only swimming. Challenges from organizations, it's sometimes hard to find funding. It's very hard to find qualified teachers. We are very lucky to have Margareta. And it's difficult to find a suitable place because we need a smaller pool and we need a more private space. We have been fortunate enough to find the right place. So it needs to be in a way closed, no big windows, no men around. So if they have like the security guard, we have to make sure they are on their own, they don't come to the swimming place. Small pools, not too deep, they have to be able to either touch the ground or have this rail where they can hold on. And the staff always needs to be informed if there's special needs. So we have many volunteers and they all need to know like who has needs, who needs more looking into. A little bit about the funding. We get small funds or support from different foundations. We apply for funding. And then also because the clients are mixed from our projects, like I said, this Fit for Life project is big and many clients from there also participate in this. So we can a little bit cover the costs from other projects as well. But also internally, we do have a participation fee. It is low. It's very, very good, but still a little bit something to get back. We have done a fundraising in 2020, and that gave us around 1,000 euros. And then we have one instructor, and then we have volunteers. So volunteers help us a lot, and they cover the cost in a way that we only have one instructor and others are there as a volunteer. Yes, thank you. This was brief. I hope you were able to understand. We have more information in our webpage, and now our social media is very active. And Margareta is our swimming instructor. You can see her contacts there. She is always available for you to contact and ask more about the swimming project. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Iida. So if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat. We're going to go to the next one, which is going to be Tilda from Sweden. And she's going to tell us about the funding model they have in the west of Sweden. I'm not going to try to pronounce that in Swedish. Västra Götaland. Something like that.
That was right.
Yeah. The floor is yours, Tilda.
Let's see. Now it's only white, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only white for now. Yeah, I can try again.
I will try to do it again. Wait. Sorry.
No worries.
Do you see it now?
Yes, sustainable funding for migrants. Yeah, it seems there's an animation, right? Or yeah, it kind of a froze. Okay, it's coming. It's flowing.
It's coming.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Tilda Matthijs. I'm working as a regional project manager of our project called Street Games. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the funding model we use here in the West, and a little bit about how we use street games as a tool for inclusive migrant sport activities. So I will see if it works. Now it works, yeah. So as Monica said, we are working in an organization called RF-SISU, Västra Götaland. It's a sport federation here in Sweden, where we work with a lot of different sports. Our mainly task is to educate and lead sport clubs using popular education. So that's what we mainly do, using popular education to develop different kind of sports in our districts. Here you can see a map. I wanted to start to tell you a little bit about the organization before I tell you about the projects. So here you can see a map of Sweden, our very long country. And you can see in the west of Sweden, we have RF-SISU Västra Götaland. And it's actually one of the biggest districts with sports in Sweden. So what do? We mainly want to create a safe sport where everyone feels welcome and can develop according to their own conditions. And we do this by supporting associations and sport clubs, and also special sport district association like the basketball association, the ice hockey association, divided into different sports. And within our organization, we also work with different projects, and Street Games is one of those. And Street Games is the one where we also work a lot with migrants. Here you have a map of Gothenburg, which is the second biggest city in Sweden, and it's within our district. And actually, it's one of the most segregated cities in Europe. So we have street games. We work a lot with street games in this city, in all our disadvantaged areas. So a little bit about street games is that we work with street games as a method in these areas where fewer people are active in sports, and where we can see an non-equality when it comes to health. And we do this by empower sport clubs and also youth from these disadvantaged areas to create a positive change. So we do activities within these neighborhoods. We are trying to create sport at the streets, very easy to reach out, and very including events. And we also, because popular education is a big task that we are working with, we also educate the sport clubs in these disadvantaged areas within interculturality and inclusion and these kind of questions. And we also have leadership programs for youth and mentors. So we try to make a positive change together with the clubs and the people living in the areas. I will tell you a little bit more about street games later on, but now I will try to explain a little bit about the funding of how it works here in Sweden. So in the box at the top, you can see the Swedish government, which are deciding of how much funding should go to sport, and also how much of that funding that should be earmarked to inclusion and integration. when the Swedish government have decided on this, it's given to our mother organization called RF-SISU Central, and they get the funding from the government. And later on, it's divided to our different districts. So as you saw the map, and we are the West district, so we get money for inclusion, and quite a lot, because we are a really big district, and with Gothenburg as a really big city. And here in RF-SISU West, we use the method street games to work with inclusive sports. So that's where the funding goes. And this creates and leads to sport activities for migrants. Moreover, we also have a lot of cooperation with cities and municipalities, like the Gothenburg city. And from the cities, we get municipal funding to street games. And also we have something, I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but we have the West region. And this is more regional funding, so that we can start street games in more cities than just maybe Gothenburg, also in other big cities in our districts. Here is a little map. I just told you about the governmental funding, the municipal funding, and the regional funding, and we call them public funding. So it's from the public. But we also work with non-public funds, of course, other fundings. And the governmental is from the government. And here in RF-SISU West, it goes to street games, to the sport activities for migrants. And we have the municipal funding, and its local needs and challenges within a city. And here we have something called ID-based and public partnership. This is something that our cities are working a lot with. We call them IOP, and it's like a financial agreement between ID-based organization and the public organization, where we get, depending on different needs, we get the task to work with these needs from the city. This today finance a lot of our project managers working within street games, actually. And the regional needs, regional funding is about the regional needs and challenges regarding public health and integration. And here we have regional projects. One of those is Street Games Academy, and it's a part of the Street Games method. I will tell you a little bit more about that. But of course, we also work with other fundings. Let's see. And it's more about identified needs from our organization or our point of view, the knowledge we have, and we use that to create different projects. And one of those is Girls Games, which also is a part of the Street Games method. And this is from a non-profit fund. So this is how we work with the funding. But when we talk about sustainable funding, we want to say that for us, it's about always following our red line or our commission. We can't just change our values depending on the financier. We always have to know what is our red line, what should we do, what do we want to do, and make the financier pay for what we think is right in the local places. So this is really important for us when we talk about sustainable funding. So it should always be according to our basic values, our commission. It should always be about sport in some way, inclusion within sport or through sport. And we work with clubs, and we want the clubs to be empowered. So that's why we always have to seek money or funding that makes sure that it goes to development and support to our local sport associations. That's the most important thing for us. And also that it has to do something with inclusion, public health, popular education, because this is according to our red line. And it's only to be according to the vision, create a safe sport where everyone feels welcome and can develop according to their own conditions. So this is really important for us. Here you have one example of the regional funding, as I told you about Street Games Academy. And so this we have in a lot of cities in the whole West District. And it's clubs within the Street Games network, offering sport activities together with homework support. So the participants come and they get homework support from students. It's in socioeconomically economically vulnerable areas, and then they have a sport activity. So we try to integrate these two things. And a lot of people, participants coming to these activities have a migrant background. So that's an example of regional funding. I told you a little bit about also non-profit funding, non-public. We have a lot of foundations. One of the biggest is Arvsfonden. And here we have sought money for something called Girls Games. Also a part of Street Games method, and it's about reaching out to girls and women with a migrant background within sports. And a little bit as the earlier example, it's only for girls. It's only for girls as leaders, only for girls as participants. So here you can see some pictures of the leaders and the participants joining. But also sustainable funding requires sustainable projects and activities. That is really important, that we call it trust capital, that trust capital is more important than economic capital. And by this, we mean that we are working with long existing projects, long existing activities for people with migrant background. We don't want to change depending on the financier. We want to create a long existing project and to make sure that we get funding for what we know is the best way of working with integration and inclusion for real. So, and this is how you also get trust capital with the people that you are working with, because they are very tired of small scale projects. And to make sustainable projects, we also work a lot with the target group, that they take place, that they develop the activities, and that they are part of the funding, writing the funding, or yeah, I think you get what I mean. Also, we think that through popular education, by increasing knowledge, we make a real change of excluding structures that can be within the sports federation or within sport clubs. And to change this and to be sustainable, we have to use education as a tool. And this is what we see with Street Games, that we have been working with Street Games for more than 7 years. It started as a project, but now we have been working with it for soon 10 years. And this is a sustainable project that is following our red line and have a large amount of trust capital with the people that we are working with. So a little bit about the Street Games. So our goals is to make more people become physically active and included in sport life. It's about making more individuals become leaders and role models and to be strengthened in their leadership. We work a lot with the leadership programs for youth to be the changers that they can be. And we want to make more associations develop their activities in collaboration with others associations. Here is, I wanted to show you a little bit about our leadership step. We have a lot of youngsters that started with a yellow shirt, and it's for a very young, like little sister or little brother coming to the events that want to do something, and they get this yellow shirt to maybe help with material or something very practical. And then we have the blue leaders. They are between 14 and 17 years old. And they are the leaders. They get education, and they are the one being the role models at the event and leading the activities. Later on, when they are 18 or older and have experience, they can become red mentors. And today we have, so this is a way of building this long existing project and the trust capital that we have people be going through all these steps. And today, actually, a lot of my colleagues are have been red mentors, and now they are project leaders within Street Games. So this is a way of building to create leaders and mentors that can continue to lead and take part of the projects. So this is what we do. We have a red mentor trying to show the blue leaders where to go, how to go, and then we think that we create the blue leaders being in the front. And this we do with education, as I have told you, network, exchange, but also events, sport events for migrants. Here you have some pictures from different events. I really love this one with the culture association coming, a lot of women, Chinese association in a sport club. And here also a few pictures of summer games, which is one of our events. We have 3 big events during the years. Summer games we have during the summer. And you can see all the people in this photo are leaders from and youth from the areas and from the clubs. And yeah, that's how we make sport at the street to be very accessible. This is my last picture. This is Maksud Rehman. He came to Sweden 5 years ago. He started as a blue leader when he came here, when he got education. Then he became a red mentor. So now he's working as a mentor a lot. But then he also participated in one of the projects we did within IRTS, I think Move Beyond. And he participated and became a sport event leader and was the one creating events for migrants. So I think this is a really good example of how we make the people themselves leading the projects, and also how we have used different kind of funding from Street Games as a blue leader, and to create opportunity within an international funding, for example, Move Beyond, and to build it up so we can use our method and create possibilities for Maksud Rehman to be a sport event leader. So I think that was it. And thank you for listening. I have my email address if you have any questions and so on about Street Games or the funding.
Thank you so much, Tilda. It's so interesting to hear about the stories of the participants and where they are. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's any questions for Tilda, you can put them in the chat and we can address them at the end of the presentations. I'm going to invite now Daniela from Italy. So we're going to go a bit to the south to share with us how the funding works in Italy, and then also sharing an example.
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks the ladies who spoke before me, because that's very much interesting, because we can compare the 2 models, the north part of Europe with a very good welfare, even with a lot of work from the sport association and the capacity of building new projects, and a less organized model we've got in Italy, and I think it could be quite the same in all the Mediterranean countries. So it's just a funny title, How to Survive Without a Clear Policy of Public Fund for Sport. And now I try to let you understand why. We have to start describing a little bit and very shortly, which is the Italian sport system. That's very much important. At the top of the pyramid, we've got the Olympic Committee that has the power. And this model came directly from the fascist period, and it changed just a little bit. The Olympic Committee has a great power in that period and still has. An example is that only 10 years ago, the president and the board decided to change a little part of the statutes of the Olympic Committee that say the main goal of the Olympic Committee is the improving of the race, the Italian race, of course. And they just forgot this part of the statute coming from a very bad period. So till now, they got a great power. And after that, there are the sport federations. They are in charge for professional sport. And then the Sport for All Association, I put together all organizations like WISP that take care about especially promotion of sport. We are recognized by the Olympic Committee. And at the end of the pyramids, of course, there are the people who do sport and the sport clubs. And the sport clubs could be associated to the federation or Sport for All Association. And these are the real sport activities and where we do the majority of the activity for integration and social inclusion, which is the real problem. We don't have any Ministry of Sport. We got 4 ministries in the last 74 years. Yes. And the first Ministry of Sport we got in 2008. At the moment, we've got a new, and then I explain why I put this question mark subject that is called Sport e Salute, that is sport and health, and is a public company, is not social public things, born in 2018 with the goal of taking care about sport, supporting and financing, and is connected with the Ministry of Economy. I don't say that it's totally new because this is a new version of a company managed by the Olympic Committee till 2018. So this is the image of the importance of sport in Italy. We don't have any specific policies, and even the funding are not specific for sport. And also for social inclusion project, it's very difficult to find where sport activities can apply for having money. So how we fund, WISP is a national association. Before COVID, we got 1,300,000 members, all over Italy. Now we are at the 50%, but we hope to regain after this pandemic period. And we are divided at national level. We got main structure, and then we've got the local committee. At national level, as you can see, this is the picture more or less at the moment in the pandemic situation. The majority of the income come from the membership and from the contribution from the government, the sport and health contribution or CONI contribution. And then we've got partially public contribution projects, sport events. Of course, normally the sport events and the project have more important in our budget, but with the COVID, everything was stopped. We use this fund, of course, for finance the structure, but also for the social activities. How is possible to support social projects? At national level, we work a lot with projects, European funds, of course, the sport program, but also the program for refugees and migrants. We try to present also project for national funds presenting by the Ministry of Welfare or Ministry for Equal Opportunity. We don't have specific funds for migrant and refugees apart the European program for refugees and migrants. We can have some funds dedicated to this part. I should also say that in the past, I don't know now with this new situation, but in the past in Italy, there were also a big fight against all the NGO taking care about the people coming from the Mediterranean Sea. They were blamed even by political party, accusing that this NGO don't rescue people but sell passage in nice boats to come in Italy. So it's very difficult the situation in Italy with some political party that are totally against the migration in Italy. So not all the year we can have good funds for welcoming migrants and refugees in sport. We work with private sponsor, especially for a campaign or a big event. And of course, there's also part of self-funding that we decide to put in specific project. On a local level, this is completely different because the majority of the income to do sport activity, and we will see later an example, come from the membership. So people who pay fees for doing activities, for being part of the association. Then there's a lot of self-funding by the local committee, especially with the voluntary people who do activities for free or for a very low income. And then, of course, there are projects funded especially by local authorities. So you can see that the model are completely different from doing a project at national level or doing an activities at local level. All the direct activities that we do with migrants and refugees are done at local level. At national level, we have more sensitization project, campaign, training course, and cooperation with the third sector and NGO who work directly with refugees. And we also work in cooperation with the cooperative who taking care about the welcoming of refugees. This part is normally taking into account by the Catholic association or cooperative, local cooperative who do the welcoming, and they are paid by the government for the welcoming. Not so much, but they are paid. So an example of a project that we got is very similar to the one presented by the Finnish, is the women's swimming pool that has been created in Turin by UISP. And the project started in 2009. And the first objective was to respond to a request from Muslim women that asked UISP, we want to swim, we want to learn to swim, we want to use the burkini, and for us, of course, was never a problem, but the real problem is we are not able to do sport with the men. And so UISP Turin decided to dedicate one swimming pool managed directly by the committee on Sunday morning to these women, to give them just opportunity to swim. But immediately, this project became as a project for all women, all ages, all culture. And so we got a very mixed typology of people who come and women who come to this swimming pool. And actually, we've got 2 swimming pools in Turin, open only for women each Sunday morning. And they can have swimming courses, aqua gym, free swimming, kindergarten for the kids, for all kids, where they can play and stay with the mother and daughter. We got a mixed culture and, of course, age. And we got also women with disabilities, women who suffered for violence, psychological, physical. So it's a first approach to come back in a soft environment and nice environment for them. And of course, all personnel is female. And from this project started many other projects, like, for example, football for Muslims, for girls that asked to have a proper football team. Then, I'm sorry. And then we will have also party. I don't know what's going on. Sorry, my cleaning robots sometimes decide to do everything alone. And anyway, as I said, we have this football team for girls, and then we organize also party for involving all the families of the women, and we create special bridges between the Italian families and migrant communities, family. And anyway, it's a way to start a communication among all. How is funded the projects? So the costs are, of course, the swimming pool, the swimming teacher, the sport educators, secretaries, cleaning society. Sport doctors is important because in Italy you cannot do sport without having a specific approval by sport doctors that say that you're able to do sport, and this is as a cost, and is compulsory in Italy for law. Income, of course, the fee of the participant who can pay the full price, but who cannot has a discount or they do for free. And in this case, there is a self-funding by the UISP Turin, or in some case, there are some adoption. One woman pay also for another woman cannot pay, or families and so on. And of course, there are lots of people who do sport activities for free. They offer their capacity and knowledge just for free, just to stay together. In some cases, not every year, we've got the municipality of Turin and the region Piemonte who gave some funds. And when it's possible, they do also projects to improve the situation. So this is how we work without having proper policy of funds for sports and social activities. One thing I want to add, because this for UISP is very much important, especially in this period with Ukrainian fleeing. For us, all the people should have the same rights to be welcome. All wars for are similar, are the same, because they do tragedy and death. And so we ask the extension of 1 year protection for all the people who is fleeing from the war, because we see that it's possible. And in Italy, we still have 2 corridors from the Balkan area and from the Mediterranean area, and people are coming. Even, of course, the numbers are not equal to the Ukrainian. Just to give you an idea, in 2 months, in Italy is arrived at the same number of migrants, of refugees that we got last in all year. So, of course, the numbers are totally different, but we wish to have all people the same protection and possibility of doing sport with us. And of course, now we are offering sport for Ukrainian, but we just did for the Afghan women and for the Syrian women. So that's all. I hope to stay in the time, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniela, for sharing. Yes, on time. Okay, next one will be, we're going back to the north. So it's going to be Marte from Norway, sharing with us how things are in Norway.
Hello, thank you. I will tell you about inclusion in the sport region of Viken, as I've heard so far, it's so many similarities. Viken is a region surrounding Oslo, the capital of Norway. We have, it's also one of Norway's biggest districts. We have 1.2 million inhabitants and 51 sport councils, one in each municipality, mostly volunteer board members, but some have employees. It's 1,500 sport clubs, and it's about 500,000 members. And I will focus on fundings and findings. So next. And first of all, our vision is the joy of sport for all. And it should be equal rights to join. Inclusion in sport shall contribute to counteracting economic and cultural barriers that otherwise prevent participation in sport activities. So the target group or the group is children and young people with minority backgrounds, especially minority girls, because they are statistically less represented in our sport clubs. And it's also children and young people from families with low ability to pay. We can see in our applications that and in our inclusion projects that the target group varies a lot, and it's often a mix between the target group. So yeah, next. This is the funding in Viken. We manage the fundings from 10 of the municipalities, 3.2 million Norwegian crowns. It's approximately 325,000 euros. And we have 3 municipalities. They are big enough to manage their own fundings. And in Norway, the total fundings is 25 million Norwegian crowns. The fundings, we have, as I said, 10 sport councils. It's 41 clubs and it's 60 applications. We received the total amount of on 5 million, and we have more than 3. So not everyone got what they wanted, but everyone got some. And the main projects is including kids or into weekly sport activities. So the ordinary offers, but it's also a lot of sport courses and introduction, and it's often open sport facilities, especially for youths, fun Fridays and things like that. They just meet and have fun in the sport fields, and it's summer schools activities, and in other holidays they also have activities. And the last group is other activities for the target group, as events or projects combined with homework or dinner or e-sport. The findings. We see that universal inclusion through activities in school is it's a very good project, because you reach everyone, and you're able to spread the joy of sport without stigmatizing, and that's important. And you can also connect the kids to suitable spare time activities. So that's a good arena to see and meet everyone. We need to keep on developing specific solutions, especially systems for economical barriers. We do have a big potential to find better solutions, and it varies from the municipalities to the municipalities. We also need specific inclusion for minority girls, especially in swimming classes. They sometimes need girls offers to be safe enough before they take this next level and join the main offer. And we have activity guides, money for the fees and money for the equipment. It's not always enough. So they also need a person to connect and support them and help them, especially in the beginning. But the most important is partnerships and cooperation. So the sustainable goal number 17 is very important. I can see when they cooperate. 1 + 1 is often more than 2. Okay, next. Inclusion is also about values, and I will let this talk for itself. Inclusion, it's often small things, but it means a lot for the people part of it. Okay, but it's also about structural tools and cooperation. So you can take the next. Yeah. We have to make this relevant for our partners and stakeholders, and it's important to find common goals. So especially sustainable goal number 11, active local communities is often a common goal to make a safe and active and healthy place to grow and to live. And it's also important to build relationships and the trust capital, and to get it's important to get to know each other. And it's also important to share the resources. Yeah, that's cooperation. And there's one thing to be aware of. It's 2 main driving forces in our sport organization. It's the competitive path and it's the playful path, the one about just being active and have fun. And it's very important to be aware of those forces. The cost often increases a lot when the ambitions are too high and they want to reach the top and be winners as soon as possible. And the skills are also accelerating. It's too advanced for others to join the group, and it happens earlier age. So now at 10, you can't start and join a basketball group because they're already a group with high ambition. So, and the window for recruiting narrows, and it happens faster. It's accelerating. So it's important to be aware of that to keep the barriers low. Yep. So what does this funding sustainable? And it's about the long-term inclusion and to build values. So that's the fundamental part of inclusion. And the long-term also makes it predictable. You know what to do, you know what possibilities and who can help you. And it's also this fund, it's motivate the local initiative, so the sports clubs they have a possibility to adapt the projects on their own premises. That's also important. And in this work, we strengthen the systems. We use tools and develop them. We build structures and partnerships, make the partnerships stronger. And we're building inclusive culture and awareness about being inclusive. And we also increase knowledge and networking. We do have e-courses, we have conferences, and we do have mentor programs, so we connect people within the sport clubs. We also connect people in the public and the volunteer sector, and also private stakeholders. But there's always room for improvement. So funding will always be important for developing inclusion in sport. And we will keep inspire, we will keep educating, facilitating, and support our clubs and sport councils so that they can empower themselves. And it's no doubt that long-term inclusion work makes us more suited to include refugees now in sport clubs. And in this crisis, we see that because the structures and the when it's already there, it's easier to involve. So the region of Viken is ready to welcome the refugees. So yeah, that was about it for Viken. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marte. Awesome, well done. This is a lot of different things, a lot of inspiration. I hope we can learn something from it and see how we can use experiences in doing our activities. Now I'm going to ask Ayisat, so the last one, to share with us your story.
Hello, good afternoon. Sorry, can you hear me because there's some noise? I don't know if
there's a little bit of noise in the back. Someone is drilling, huh?
yeah, I think from the upstairs.
Yes, let's do our best.
Okay, I think it's quiet now. Now?
Yes, it's good. It's good for now. So neighbors stop drilling. That's
sorry
to the universe. No worries.
Yeah, apologies for that. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ayisat Yusuf. I'm working as a sport instructor with Monalliku as for migrant women in sport. And I'm here to give you tips of why it's important to integrate migrant women through sport. You know, as a migrant myself in Finland, I have arrived here 18 years ago to join a club in Oulu called FC Oulu as a professional football player. After I've played in the Women World Cups and the Olympic Games for the Nigerian national team, my beloved sport, of course, football, that has helped me to survive in Nigeria and also has been a very efficient way to integrate in the Finnish society. You know, playing as a professional football player has opened a lot of doors and has also helped me to feel a part in the society. As we all know, sports as a universal language. But I also understand that it's not everybody that is as lucky as me. So I understand that many migrant women have some disability challenges that have prevented them to join sports activities in their host country. You know, be them cultural, religious, or another nature that have caused them isolation and also not make them to feel inclusive when it goes to do with sport activities, and also it has affected them to do any sport hobbies. But personally, I believe, and also we in Monalliku, we strongly believe in the power of sport for social inclusion, for making people to feel welcome. But in order to do that, I think the world of sports needs to change and create the possibility for every vulnerable groups, like the refugee women, to join and feel included in the society. As we all understand, again, that sports as the word of men. But at the same time, I'm very optimistic that sport can be the best way for many to connect in the society, you know, by getting more information, better information, and at the same time, you know, for them to know more about the gender equality, well-being, to be self-confident, you know, get to know more about social connecting with other people, and also to take them some pressure out of them, for them to have their own time, and at the same time, you know, just for them to be by themselves. And of course, you know, also for them to feel the freedom of expressions. So personally for me, as a migrant and as a woman, at the same time as a sport instructor, I strongly believe that mental well-being is very important for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ayisat. So we have now 10 minutes or so for questions. If there's some questions to the speakers that we had now, You are very welcome to unmute yourself and yeah, ask the question. So I saw Laura was posting something before, question to Monalliku. So Laura, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. I can ask it out loud as well. I hope my audio works. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I was wondering, Iida, you mentioned that you, and the other speakers as well, you mentioned that you try to have sessions with both the minority and majority ethnic groups there, so people with a minority background and a native Finnish. How do you approach this? Do you reach out to them specifically? How do you advertise, even though you said you don't need to do a lot of marketing, the sessions? Are they open to everyone? Are you focusing to those people and women who could not enjoy swimming lessons in the public open access way? If that was clear, I hope that was okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
I can answer and then maybe Claudia can fill in. Yes, thank you. We have at the moment these swimming lessons where we teach the swimming skills. That is only for migrant women. And I think our long-term goal is to teach them about our public swimming hall culture. So we hope that in years they would be confident enough to go by themselves without us to these places. And then we have this water aerobics class, and there we also welcome other women, because I think it's important for them to mix also with the I don't want to say pure Finnish people, but people born in Finland and more knowing of the swimming culture we have here. We don't market really the swimming lessons, but we market the water aerobics, because in there we hope to have also Finnish women.
I could also add, if I may have the time, that
yes,
we designed this, not all of our activities, but most of the activities for migrant women, right? But everybody is welcome, but they, usually they have to know that there will be different languages used, and not only Finnish. So we welcome everybody to any of our groups as long as they are women, right? Because we have only for women. We do have different. We talk not only about the swimming, but we also have project like Mentor on the Move, where we have this, persons born in Finland or that have been living long in Finland, plus a migrant. So we try to find different solutions also to, to interact and to include and so on and so forth. So, but as I said, our activities are mainly designed for migrant women, but we welcome everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Any of the other speakers would like to share their experience with this?
I got a question for Tilda.
Sure.
Thank you, first of all, for all these presentations. It was really instructive, and we learn a lot, even though we're doing activities on grassroots level. One question was about the project you're running with this. It's like teaching and sports, and I believe that you're getting some funds. But are you working directly with schools or with clubs, or how are you organizing this activity? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We are working, when we do activities, we do them through sport clubs. So we have in these different disadvantaged areas, we have one project leader working with getting together the sport clubs in a network, Street Games network. And that's the sport clubs that are planning and doing the sport events in the areas during summer games, Christmas games, or winter games. So we plan it together with people from the sport clubs and also together with individuals, youngsters, youth from the areas which are not maybe included into sports but want to do something. And we reach out to them through, we have a lot of collaboration with, I don't know the English word actually, youth clubs maybe. Youth clubs working with youth in the areas. So I don't know if that was an answer, but we always try to do it through sport clubs because we could do some of the activities by our own, like a sport federation, but that wouldn't lead to somewhere to go afterwards, if you understand. We want them to find the sport clubs in their local area and to create positive change within the sport clubs as well. That they try to think about how can we include more youngsters and more families in our neighborhoods. And regarding schools, we have a different project called Movement in Schools. And within this project, we work a lot with schools in the same areas. So the project leaders within that project and within Street Games, we collaborate a lot to also create possibilities for the sport clubs to visit the schools and to reach out to the children in the schools during school day. I hope that was an answer to your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the question and also the answer. I also saw Brett, it's kind of an inquiry, but Brett, we have time. So if you want, you can speak up if you have the opportunity regarding empowering and supporting masses of the displaced person. So.
Yes, sorry. So from what we're experiencing here, particularly in Poland, with over 2 million people being displaced here, there's a lack of arts and sports equipment and access to facilities and everything that was described there before by our Norwegian friends. So what possibilities are there to connect in and partnership and so forth if you've dealt with such a massive displaced persons in one hit?
Yeah, I think that's a very challenging questions. I don't know who from the speakers has experience with that. So Jakob is raising hand to ask a question or answer. I'm just checking in here.
Potentially answer as well, of course, because first and foremost giving responses.
Yes. So does anyone from the speakers have experience with massive influx of refugees and migrants? I'm somehow thinking about Daniela in Italy. Maybe you had, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, well, we got an experience because it depends from the year. Sometimes we got a very massive refugees, and also Katerina in Greece. We faced a situation. Of course, it's different, and because the wars are many in the war, unfortunately. And yes, of course, it's a long speech. It's not possible to resume in few words. What we do normally is working directly with the organization who taking care about the people who arrive. And we work with the social workers and doctors, and then we arrive in the second part. Normally, we work with the houses that welcome the refugees or the asylum seekers, and we offer opportunity of sport. It's different town and town. For example, I work in Rome, and if we talk about women, we got a great problem because all the welcome center for women are very far from the city center, without any possibility of moving alone. And you know, if you are a woman, in the majority of the case, you've got a very bad travel, especially if you come from the sub-Saharan area, and so you are scared to travel alone, especially in the evening. And many sport activities offered are in the evening. So it depends a lot from the how large are the city, how many activities you can propose, how many people can help really in creating actions. What I can say is that the main advice is talk with the people, understand what they need. Don't propose any sport because, for example, football is very popular. That doesn't mean that all people want to play football. And try to understand which are their real needs. Sport is a fantastic tool. It's socialization, we said, is education, is a way to put together people. So that is, but if you need any other assistance, I'm happy to write you, and maybe we can create also exchange, no problem for this.
Thank you, Daniela.
What I could add in this is that we had some years ago in Finland, okay, maybe the amount of, the number of people who came in wasn't so like big, but one other possibilities is that, okay, first I'm working in an organization, like a network organization for migrant associations, and we are a little bit around Finland with our members. So coming to that point, will be good to get in contact with all the municipalities, like sports sections, and so that you can create a network with the organization or migrant organization who are already in those areas, so that they get connection straight with the city council or the sport department, so that they can discuss about the facilities. Because first, before organizing activities for newcomers or for people who are in asylum seekers' houses or reception centers, you need to know what you can provide. So the idea, the first thing will be to see with your cities where they are, and then see what are the options, and then maybe connect them with the club so that they can provide those information to the reception centers or to people who are working for like social inclusion through sports. So this is one advice that we have went through, but of course there's a lot of challenges in this case. So.
Thank you so much. So I'll give the word now to Tilda, and then also I think Marta wanted to talk. Yes, so let's Tilda first and then Marta.
Yeah, I don't know if this is an answer, but a little bit like you said before me, when to Sweden in 2015, it came quite a lot refugees, not as now in Poland, of course, but it was a lot for Sweden in 2015. And I worked in another ID-based organization, and what we did then in Gothenburg city, where a huge amount of the refugees came, we did this IOP, as I told you before, and the city, because the city couldn't meet the challenges with all the refugees by themselves. They had quite a lot of money, but they didn't know how to do it practic with all the different kind of needs, like sport activities, the health, somewhere to live, and so on. So we did like a EOP partnership where we were, I think, 10 different ID-based organizations and the municipality. And we were a group, and we created this partnership, who should do what, and which organization had which money to put in. And we did a quite good partnership in Gothenburg city, where, for example, my organization focused on activities for these especially youngsters coming in 2015. So maybe, I don't know if you have this ability to do partnerships between different sectors. That's a quite good way of addressing a problem and to try to solve it together.
Thank you so much, Tilda. And Marte?
Yes, I just had to add one thing, because as I see it, they're more able to adapt a huge amount of refugees now when they have employees. I can see that the municipalities, they need one contact person, and it's also important to communicate what to provide within the municipalities and the sports clubs in the municipalities, and to coordinate, because there's so many volunteers, so many who wants to volunteer. So when you have a person working with it, it's easier. And I'm working 20% with it, and in Gothenburg I think there's 6 employees working with inclusion. So it was very inspiring, and they structured up a lot. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Marte. And Jakob wanted to say something before. Now I give you the word.
Yes, that's great. Just wanted to comment, because the question was originally around partnerships around arts and sport, also looking at the situation in Ukraine. So I wanted to mention that what we see is more and more sport-oriented organizations are discovering, finding, and partnering with the humanitarian organizations. And right now, the UNHCR is trying to gather those sport-oriented organizations and make sure that their proposals, methodologies, and activities are being put available to these humanitarian organizations, which are indeed on the front lines. So my recommendation would be that it's important to look for the humanitarian organizations that are working in the so-called blue dots in some of the arrival spaces of not least Ukrainian refugees, and then also to see what is already happening. And I would recommend here especially the team up methodology, which is being developed and deployed now by War Child in the Netherlands, Save the Children in the Netherlands, and UNICEF. So there's a good methodology available, and many organizations are actually working in this space, also in Poland, as you mentioned. And I believe that UNICEF is going to be publishing also soon more information about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jakob. Yes, so if there's no further questions, doesn't seem so. We're gonna have a little break, so a little coffee break, movement break, water break, whatever you need, for 10 minutes, and then I'll be very happy to invite you to come back, so in 10 minutes, so at 2:45 Central European time and 3:45 Finnish time, as we will go into smaller breakout rooms together with the presenters, and then you can talk more about the examples, ask them more questions, and also actually share your challenges and experience. So this is the plan for the rest of the webinar. I'll be happy to welcome you back in 10 minutes, and the room stays the same. So yes. Thank you everyone for questions and discussions, and see you soon. Okay, so I suggest we go into the breakout rooms. So what's gonna happen now? I guess you're familiar with the breakout rooms probably already. So the idea is that we will have 4 breakout rooms together with the presenters and one ISCA staff. You will choose on your own into which breakout room you go. So once I'll open the rooms, you will see on the screen, you'll have four different breakout rooms, and I put the names of the people. So in the first breakout room, you have Iida and Jakob. So that's the first breakout room. In the second one, we have Tilda and Laura. And the third one, Daniela and Maria. And the fourth one, Marte and Sashka. The idea is that you ask more questions, share also about yourself, the organization that you're working in, the challenges that you have, solutions, maybe even make partnerships. I don't know, it's up to you. So we have 30 minutes. And then we'll come back to the main room and we'll share from each of the breakout room, what were the main things shared, what were the challenges, solutions, inspiration, anything that will come out of it. So yes, are you ready to go into the breakout rooms? Whee, excitement. So I'm gonna open them in a second. Yes, and I will be staying in the main room. If you have some questions, also try to choose a breakout room. Try to see how many people there are in the breakout room. And if you don't choose anything, I'll put you in a breakout room. So I'll reserve this power of hosting the webinar. Okay, so I'm opening the rooms. welcome back. I see some new faces that I didn't see before. Okay, I guess we have everyone. I hope you enjoyed the networking breakout room time. Yes, and I'll be very happy to hear what was exchanged. What did you learn? What are the challenges? So let's start with the first breakout room, which was Iida and Jakob.
Yes, thank you very much. First, maybe because we were up north. In fact, all participants seem to be coming from Nordic countries, most of them, in fact, Finland. So that was the starting point. It was really helpful to see that there were some concrete questions to Monalliku in terms of how they could eventually support some of our participants in a very practical level. So that was nice. So contacts were made, emails were exchanged, and I think that's a good stepping stone. When it comes to the topic of sustainable funding, I think all participants recognize that there's differences between these different systems, and sometimes it's quite systematic, as it seems to be the case in Sweden, whereas in others, maybe also in Finland, it's a little bit more chaotic or unclear how to access and how stable is indeed the funding when we talk about inclusion measures indeed. We also discussed about bottom-up approaches being necessary to supplement what is a top-down funding structure. And it was discussed when we talked about the Ukrainian refugee crisis that we need to be very attentive also to the fact that not everybody understands what we all preach and believe in terms of the value of sport. So advocacy is really needed, and we also need to appreciate and balance the communication so that it's not only about Ukrainian refugees, but respecting the needs of all refugees and migrants, and indeed trying to help and serve those needs as much as possible, instead of running into something at a dash, trying to support without knowing what is really the need in question. So I thought it was a good conversation we had, and these are just some highlights from that chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jakob. So we're going to go to the second one, which was Tilda and Laura. And I think Tilda already had to leave. If you're hearing this, thank you so much, Tilda, for being with us. And Laura,
and we were so engaged in the conversation that Tilda was there until then. So I'll try to make a short overview of our discussion, and it was very lively, and I thank all the participants for their contributions. I barely got a word in, so you know how rare that is. We talked with some very specific questions to Tilda in Sweden about how to apply for funds, what are the basic principles, and also how long the period is. And she explained that they get the grants from the centralized RF-SISU organization every 2 years, and the same goes for the municipality. So it helps to better plan the activities if you know what you can work with and you already know it in advance for 2023 and the end of 2023, for example. It was also praised the points that she made about the trust capital, sustainable funding, and alignment with values, etc. And then we talked a little bit more on how to outreach for the local sport clubs in the local community. And Tilda made a very good point how they are acting as a spider in the local community of being a centralized contact point and amplifying the voices about the local challenges back to the more centralized level and also to the local municipality. So really amplifying the voices as a loudspeaker, let's say. And then our discussion went more to the use of digital tools, how to use that in the communication and outreach side. And we shared our experiences that sometimes the most simple ways are the best ones, that posters and calling and having physical events might even have better impacts than the digital and social media side. So this was shared among the discussion group as well. And one of very important things we talked about was international cooperation and partnerships and how to have these different stakeholders together. We had a great example from Seville, how they shared a project that has stakeholders from sport organizations, municipalities, Spanish Refugee and Migration Council, a foundation, and the local football club all working together, and how we could replicate and scale these projects to other contexts as well. And the most important thing that Katerina pointed out and does every time, and I really appreciate it, is to, when we speak about these topics, that it's nothing with them without them, that we really involve the refugee leaders and voices into this discussion, so we wouldn't see the same people around the same table all the time. So I think it was also a message that she might be a little bit tired of seeing our faces all the time. So to really how to amplify these things. And I would highlight the thing that Sean Mark said about us being able to step aside as well and giving other people, and especially the people with a refugee background, a seat at the table. And if that might mean us stepping aside, then this is the approach that we should take. But of course, keep in mind that they need to be empowered and educated to do that and have the confidence to really carry out the work. And that also included including them into writing applications and preparing for the funding as well. So to start from the really beginning of working together with them. So that was my very fast summary because I had a short deadline. Thank you all.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, sharing the power. The next one is Daniela and Maria. Yes, I'll ask Maria to share with us what you talked about.
Yes, well, in our lovely compact group, we had a very lively discussion too. And well, starting from sharing our experiences in different regions of Italy, from Daniela and Licia, and from Brett, who comes from Australia and is currently in Poland. And well, we discussed not only the, well, such things as problems with funding, which are, yeah, some of the topics that we touched up in the main session, but also touching upon subjects like not lack of sustainability in providing funding when, for example, we're talking about volunteers, which are very, very great to work with, but they can come and leave, and also projects can change year from year. So yeah, then we also discussed about the activities that are most suitable for migrants, and yeah, swimming and cycling seem to be very, very, very popular in that sense. Cycling as well as not only as a sport, but as a provider for mobility. Yeah, and well, what else should I add? Yeah, and I really like the outtake from this conversation. We switched a little bit from just discussing funding, but also the current situation with the Ukrainian refugees, which is of course on everyone's tongues now. And I really like the outtake from this, that yeah, this crisis may give us some lessons how we can how we should unite our efforts and connect between different stakeholders in the area, so that this networking can help us create effective mechanisms for integrating the refugees. And this is a sad situation, but this is something that we can learn from it, and yeah, try to expand our connections and create something unified for us and for the refugees. Yeah, I think that was it. If there is anything from my lovely breakout room comrades to add, please feel free. Otherwise.
Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing. And the last one, Marte and Sashka. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. In the group, we were Marte and Jakub Kalinowski from Poland and me, so 3 of us. And because Kuba, or Jakub Kalinowski, he's very much, he lives in Poland and is very much, he and his organization and full team involved with the activities in Ukraine or in Poland with Ukrainian refugees. That was the topic we discussed. And actually what we said, is how important is the network, in what Maria you already mentioned also before, how this network and the local networks are important, but also how important is to get as much as possible clear and real information what's going on in Poland or Moldova or in Romania and other neighboring countries, as well as in Ukraine. Because we don't see that, or we sitting in our countries or in our offices, we quite often don't get the real information. So that's why it's so important to have on board, like Kuba today, to give us the real information. And we meet again next week just on the topic of Ukraine and situation. So that will be a little bit more information about the Ukrainian situation. And then the second, what was also important, what was mentioned, or we discussed, that sustainable funding in the case of Ukraine is not, it's not important at the moment. Not that it's not important, but it's not on the plate right now. But what it is here and now, and what we can help and what we can give and what we can provide. On one side, providing the food and clothes and medicines and everything what is needed, and that is quite well organized and provided a lot of things. But on the other side, the money is issue. And what Kuba also mentioned is that many companies in Poland that provided financial support are out of money right now. Not right now, but are already out of money. And so the funding, so it's very much important how to actually raise the funds, how to connect with the different networks that we have out of Ukraine, out of neighboring countries, so that they can help. And you are, or we are, some of us, of course, most of us out of those countries, and we can help, and that is very, very much important. It is not just help with funding and financial support to Ukrainian refugees. It's very important to help to countries and organizations that are now receiving and helping in the neighboring countries. But there are also, of course, refugees that are now in other countries, like Marte also explained the example of bringing the buses, or many buses of refugees to Norway. But still not enough. We know that we can do, or we can accept more, and we would like to. And it's important to actually to see the network and understand how we can do that. That will be addressed next week, of course, at the meeting. But if there is something more to add, we can also add here and now today. And I think we are actually out of time. But if there is something very important, maybe Kuba, you can add, or Jakub, please, if you can add maybe a sentence or two, because this is really an important moment and information. Thank you.
Sasha, thank you. Just to echo and repeat what you've said, in terms of Poland, what we are observing is that people are getting just simply tired of the whole situation, and everybody, all hands on board at the beginning, and we're still, helpful, kind of providing resources at different levels for different reasons. Yeah, and we are very much focused on what's happening now. So this hour, today, tomorrow, and we that will definitely impact and influence the situation on how much we can provide, how much resource we can provide in the future to secure integration. In our case, integration of refugee kids in the Polish environment, school environment. So yes, yeah, very much looking forward to our further discussions and possibly finding different ways, approaches, and any ideas you might all have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jakub. It's open floor. I mean, we're done with the time, but if someone wants to express something, if there's something on your mind, heart, soul that needs to come out.
Thank you, Jakub. When you're the situation of a refugee, it's really painful for a lot of people, and of course, there's a lot of debates happening around the situation in Ukraine, and we're supporting you because it's heavy, and it's really heartbreaking when you're meeting with people who are living this situation. So we're encouraging you, and we're really supporting you in your job. And there's not much, like we're really far away and we're in the safe zone, but we're really supporting you. And there's not much I can say. Really behind you.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then I'm gonna say thank you to everyone. Thank you to the presenters. Some of them left already, but I'll give thanks to them via email as well. And thank you to everyone participating. Probably quite, how to say, a bit with emotional discussions maybe at moments, because it's so right now and so right here. But I hope we'll find courage and strength to continue and just include all the human beings, right? Because it's not about the nationality or color. We're all human